The U.S. Department of State, through the application of the Leahy law, withdrew U.S. security assistance to the Royal Saint Lucia Police Force in 2013. The U.S. cited the unresolved allegations of the unlawful shooting deaths of 12 individuals by local police during a crackdown on crime during the 2010-2011 period, which included Operation Restore Confidence, ORC. Despite subsequent coroner's inquest and the 2014-2015 impacts probe and report, the sanctions have remained firmly in place. Now, United States Ambassador to Barbados, the Eastern Caribbean, and the OECS, Linda Tagliatella, has announced that certain conditions of the Leahy law have been removed on some units of the Royal Saint Lucia Police Force.
Since 2013, the Royal Saint Lucian Police Force has been excluded from our assistance due to the implications of some Saint Lucian Security Force personnel in the alleged extrajudicial killing of civilians. I've come here to announce that starting today, we will be able to expand assistance to selected units within the Royal Saint Lucian Police Force.
The Marine Police Unit and the Immigration Department were the two lucky units to be chosen to receive U.S. security assistance. It should be noted that these two departments are at the center of a plan to establish a border control agency for St. Lucia. According to Tagliatella, training will allow for these two particular units to better handle trafficking in the region. The easing of sanctions will also see some units benefiting from professional military education, state partnership exchange program with Florida and the United States National Guards, and regular maritime support.
This is only the first step. We look forward to continuing to expand our cooperation and engagement. An important part of this process is to ensure full accountability on allegations of extrajudicial killings. We continue to call for the credible investigation and accountability in these cases in order to broaden cooperation to all units. We have always been confident that the vast majority of the Royal Saint Lucian Police Force are professional and law-abiding officers who are not in any way connected to the alleged gross violations of human rights from a decade ago.
The contentious Operation Restore Confidence and the subsequent imposition of the Leahy law has haunted the island for a decade. Commissioner of Police Milton Daisy welcomes the partial reprieve from U.S. authorities.
Transnational organized crimes, including the cybercrime, human trafficking, money laundering, and firearms and the drug trade, it needs to be under control to make individuals and the country on the whole safe. We are pleased that Your Excellency has announced the lifting of certain conditions of the Leahy imposition and has agreed that certain departments in the force will be receiving further assistance.
The two main political parties have sparred for years over the alleged missteps in the handling of ORC and the impacts probe. On the eve of another general election, Prime Minister Allen Chastanet is touting the UWP government's role in the major step toward closure in the unresolved matter.
When I came in here, that's what it felt like. It felt like the Leahy was there and there was no plan B as to how to make this happen. The boats weren't operating, the forensic lab was closed, the radar system was shut, we couldn't get ammunition from the U.S., and there just didn't seem to be anything in process to resolve those issues. So that's what we've been able to do, is to mutually agree that it's important that you have a strong police force. It's important that St. Lucia be in a position to protect its borders. It's important that St. Lucia play a role in regional security. But at the same time mindful of the U.S.'s requirement that this issue be resolved, because they take human rights very seriously.
But what will it take for a complete removal of the sanctions? Ambassador Tagliatella details the road ahead for the Royal Saint Lucia Police Force and the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution.
There is no requirement that people must be found guilty or convicted of charges. What it means is that there has to be a reasonable and respectable process by which people are held accountable and determined whether in fact they had participated or not in a particular activity. So it's up to the DPP to put together his best case or cases. It's up to him to determine and to document those cases that can't move forward because there is insufficient evidence. And from there we can move forward to go back to the United States government and discuss whether this is acceptable under the Leahy laws and whether we can then remove the restrictions.
As it stands, the Leahy law sanctions are still in place on other units and departments of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. Solange Alfred, HTS News Force.